First off, welcome, good morning and afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Oscar Tollin, and with me is my colleague Dario. We will host or sort of facilitate this webinar, and we will start off by talking about the Swedish cybersecurity market. But the agenda, as I said, is first welcome and a sort of introduction to Open Tradegate Sweden, or OTGS as we call it. Then we will have our colleague Michael, who will talk about the presentation of the study on cybersecurity. And then we will have a panel discussion, and we will ask our three experts, Ola, Stefan, and Maria, who will talk from sort of the more from the industry and talk a little bit more about the practical tips. And then at the end, we will have a Q&A from you participants. You can write all your questions in the chat, and we will bring them up at the end of the webinar. So introducing Open Tradegate Sweden. Yes. So we're part of the National Board of Trade, which is a governmental agency. And this is what we sort of work with in the National Board of Trade. But Open Tradegate Sweden is part of the sort of development corporation, and we build capacity within low and middle income countries. As I said, we facilitate trade from developing economies or low and middle income countries. We're funded by the Swedish Development Aid, and we're free to charge all our services. And we have two sort of capacities. We work in a point of contact, which this webinar is, and a capacity building. So those are sort of those two functions that we work in. First off, we have point of contact, which we use as a sort of one-stop shop to get people can write into our email questions regarding how to access the Swedish market, and I will usually give them a recommendation on where they should turn, what they should do, which sort of organization they should look at, and so forth, and maybe in other Swedish governmental organizations as well. So that's a one-stop shop a little bit. So we also, as I said, we do market studies. We work in three different sectors. We work in food, IT/tech, which is this part of, and then we work in textiles. So those are the three sectors that we work in, and they're all focused on accessing the Swedish market. Because that's primarily what we work towards. We have a function called Road to Export, which is on our website. It's a guide, a step-to-step guide on everything from the start of exporting to at the end. It's a little bit different for services, but you can still use a few of these steps when it comes to requirements and the sort of trends, look into trends before accessing a market. And then at the end, you have a checklist a little bit on to see how prepared you are for exporting your service or your service to Sweden or the EU. And secondarily, we have something called capacity building, where we will work in long-term projects, and we help companies in specific countries to accessing the Swedish market, and we do that with everything from coaching to get them to trade first, to get them to understand a little bit more about how the Swedish market works. We get them here to Sweden, and for them to learn more in order to improve their chances of getting into the market as well. This is a few of the things that we will do in 2024 and 2025. As I said, the Road to Export, which are trainings that we do for certain exporters in developing countries. We're focusing on Ukraine, Moldova, and Armenia. Now we're looking at new countries. We also have a project in Georgia, but that's a bit on pause. We have a project called Trade Academy Trade Promotion, which is a training program which is called Train the Trainer, where we train business support organizations to help companies in their respective countries as well, and for them to sort of improve their chances of getting into the Swedish market as well. We have attended the CIAL, which is the world's largest food fair, and we will this year attend Anuga, which is in Germany, the largest, one of the largest food fairs as well, which is Germany. And then we talked about the point of contact, which is market reports, webinars, and are primarily the web page where you can find a lot of information about Open Tradegate service, Open Tradegate Sweden, and what we do, and the sort of information that you might need when you're starting or want to export to Sweden. Yes, and I will hand over to Dario, who will talk about an example of one of our projects. Next step.
Thank you, Oscar. So TechStep Sweden, as you will see in the slide, is the main activity we run within the tech sector. And as you will see here, the activity combines educational bits. So we help companies get to know the market, and then also as practical moments. So we bring companies in market. So it's a 50-month long initiative. So it's quite ambitious. And right now we are working with Ukraine and Moldova, so our two countries of focus. And so this webinar is part of the educational bit of our project. And as you will see on the slide, there's different phases here that also contain more, I guess, in-market activities. But yeah, enough about us. We have a packed schedule today, so I guess I'm really eager to let the speakers take the stage. And we start off with Michael Acampa from Ultiro. Ultiro has authored the report on cybersecurity. It's just been released on our website, can be downloaded, which highlights the trends in this cybersecurity industry in Sweden. So, Michael, thank you very much, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Dario. Thank you so much, Oscar. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Mike Akampa. I'm one of the founders of Ultiro, a Swedish venture builder and IT consultancy that, among other things, supports the National Board of Trade with trade promotion activities for the IT sector. And we love this work. We love the impact it creates. And among them, we have been writing market studies commissioned by the National Board of Trade, the most recent being the Swedish study on the Swedish cybersecurity market. Today, I'm standing in for my colleague Niklas Melkvist, my fellow co-founder at Ultiro, who unfortunately couldn't be with us today due to sicknesses, but I hope I'll do my best to fill in for him. Let's jump right in. Sweden is one of Europe's most digitalized economies with almost 100% internet penetration. Everyone in Sweden is online, and the country has a high digital intensity index, one of the highest in Europe, actually. What this means is that people are very computer savvy, computer literate, which means that digital solutions have a big place in organizations, both national and private, public and private organizations. And cybersecurity is something that is discussed at board levels in different types of organizations, big and small. And we see that the market has been growing rapidly. Today, it stands at about $1.5 billion and is expected to reach almost $3 billion. It is expected to reach $2.4 billion, growing at a rate that's almost 9%, which we believe is quite high for a very industrialized and developed country. What this means is that there is opportunities for different service providers, for different solutions. The market is wide open, but we will also be talking about practical aspects that we covered in the report and that the experts here will cover. There are various opportunities in the market. Among them is that the market is a bit concentrated, but still open. Sweden already imports almost over $500 million US dollars as of looking at the last several years. And most companies already working with international companies. So collaborating with international companies in Sweden for Swedish companies is not new. A lot of Swedish companies already have nearshore and offshore teams in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine, in Czech Republic, but also in Asia, in India and Thailand and so on. So this is not really new. Swedish companies are built on partnerships and working together, and English is really widely used in business and contracts, which makes it a bit easier for new entrants. However, entering this market requires that you build trust. Among the different companies that we interviewed, trust stood out as a key value to have and as a key tenet of the Swedish market structure. The market as overall is growing, but there are especially some areas that we found were growing faster than others. And among them was cloud security. As more and more Swedish companies and Swedish organizations move their data to the cloud, this has created the need for maintaining security and integrity of that data, which is driving growth in this segment. Another segment that the report looked at where there is strong growth and strong demand is managed security services, such as SOC and MDR, which is largely driven by the fact that small and medium enterprises do not have the resources to set up their own security tiers. So they rely on managed security services of different forms. Other areas that were lifted up, endpoint and email security to protect against phishing and malware, providing different services to organizations to sensitize their employees and to test different penetration levels. So that also stood out. But lastly, several opportunities within the compliance and data protection space, mostly driven by regulations such as GDPR and NIS2, which require several organizations to comply. And in certain industries, the compliance requirements are actually a lot high. For instance, in financial services, that's really a lot high. And lastly, of course, industrial cybersecurity within energy, logistics, and manufacturing is another particular area that we found strong demand. In terms of how to enter the market, being able to form partnerships with local actors, for instance, system integrators and value addition partners is one way, as well as being able to offer localized services, for instance, with Swedish language support and having a local partner in place is one way to access the market. Most Swedish organizations like transparency, so having a transparent pricing model that's maybe even very clear to understand, that is very predictable, is something that's a good to have as you access the market. There are various trade fairs that one can attend to build trust and to meet potential partners that are also extensively covered in the report. And lastly, having a strong online presence, being able to show your credibility both on and offline when you meet potential partners at fairs and start to build a relationship. And lastly, ensuring that you comply with EU rules is one thing that a potential service provider must have. In terms of what the drivers are, it's largely stricter EU regulation that is driving investments in cybersecurity space. As a segment, it has received more, it has witnessed more investments, whether in companies building solutions or in organizations ensuring that they comply to these stricter regulations with their services and their infrastructures. Cloud adoption is another main driver that I talked about, that more and more organizations are moving to having their data in the cloud as opposed to what used to be physical server setups. There's of course a big talent shortage. There's very strong talent in Sweden, but talent in this segment, as more and more demand arises, there's a need to maintain the demand for the services. And of course, there's geopolitical factors such as Sweden's NATO membership and the escalated conflict happening, which require a need for more security. How do you succeed? We have experts here today that will share some insights, but very quickly, trust is one thing that stands out. Being able to respond promptly, being able to deliver what you promised, keeping things extremely simple and straightforward, highlighting certifications that you have, ISO certifications and different types of security certifications that you're able to demonstrate is a good key to success. touched on strong online presence to build credibility is another way, but also Swedish companies like partnerships. They like to grow with their partners, and they like to not change partners too often. So being able to build and invest in long-term relationship that's a win-win is one sure way to success. Without much ado, I'll wrap it up there. I urge you to read the report, and we have experts here, so I won't waste much time. I'll move on to hand over to Dario to coordinate the Q&A.
Wonderful. Thank you, Michael, for the excellent overview. And as Michael said, yeah, the report can be downloaded from our website, so I encourage you to do so to get the full picture. And now we'll go further and talk to our panelists. So we have an excellent panel with us today, and it's quite a unique opportunity to hear directly from the industry. So thank you all for joining. And I'll just run through an introduction of who the panelists are, and then we get into a little bit of a sort of Q&A, also on the basis of the reports we just got insights from. So we have Ola Skog, which is a business unit manager at Axians. Ola has extensive experience in IT operations, and he played a key role in launching Microsoft Azure in Sweden, and now leads Axians services in secure IT operations, monitoring, and cloud transformation. Thank you for being with us, Ola.
Hello.
Now we have Stefan Tellberg, which is the founder and CEO of Home Security. Stefan is one of Europe's leading cybersecurity entrepreneurs, and he previously founded the Swedish web hosting group and Stay Secure. Welcome, Stefan. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And lastly, possibly not least, we have Maria Lön, which is the Chief Marketing Officer at Allurity. Allurity is a European group of cybersecurity companies, and Maria brings extensive experience in building brands and driving growth in the tech sector. Thank you, Maria, for being with us today. So as you will see, it's an esteemed panel. So I'd like to start off with a question on the back of the report that Mikael just presented. So we heard a lot about the importance of compliance with EU rules for new market entrants, and so I would like to expand on that a little bit more. And we heard about keywords such as the Cyber Resilience Act, the INIS2, GDPR. So I'd like to maybe start off with Stefan and ask what does this mean for new suppliers, for new market entrants? How important it is for them to comply with regulations from your industry perspective?
Well, I think so. Thank you, Dario, for the introduction. First of all, so I think for any company entering into the IT and cybersecurity sector in Sweden, I think it's important to understand, first of all, the local regulations. And when I say local regulations, many of them are obviously EU-based. So that's definitely one important area to dig into. And also not only understand maybe the EU-based regulations, but also the local recommendations from local government organizations in Sweden. Having experience from many years within IT and cybersecurity, I have experienced that the end customer, the potential end customers, they do value a lot that you have knowledge about the local challenges that they're facing, basically, when it comes to regulations and also other things. So that I would say is definitely important. So it's not only it should not be looked at as a challenge, I would say, or something negative, that you need to learn and understand these regulations. I would rather look at it as an opportunity. It's a great opportunity to learn and understand how to work with them. If you're a product company, for example, I think it's a great opportunity to adapt to that, build features and functions, products that help organizations in Sweden comply with these regulations. I think that's something that I've done in the past in my previous companies and also here at Home Security, and that's very successful.
Thank you for that. I like what you said about not a challenge but an opportunity. I think that's a good way of looking at it. And Maria, would you like to add anything to that from your own experience?
Yes, thank you, Dario. And I agree a lot with what Stefan mentioned. I can only just add that I think that it's important, if you are a new entrant, that you can prove from the start that you not only understand the regulatory environment, but can help customers navigate it. We see that a lot, that the ability to combine deep regulatory expertise with hands-on high quality services gives an advantage. And I would say customers look for partners who can simplify complexity and reduce compliance risk and turn regulations into resilience. So that's what I think is also important, that cybersecurity is quite complex. And I think that's a very strong possibility to help customer navigate that complexity.
Yeah, so yeah, complexity is definitely, we heard a little bit in the report. There's a lot to read into and unpack. But Ola, thank you for that, Maria. Ola, do you have anything to add to that from your own experience?
In my own experience is that we work with compliance issues, and for us it's NIS2. It's GDPR has been for many years, but it's still ongoing, and companies are still struggling with it, from my experience. And at Axians, we also have a lot of clients that need to be compliant with DORA. So I can just mention it if
Yes.
it's also the EU compliance for the banking industry and the finance industry and so on. So they all in somehow aligns with each other, and there are overlaps and so on. But you need to understand it and understand what kind of compliance demands that the different industries have.
Thank you for that. And can I just ask a quick follow-up to what you just said about suppliers struggle with compliance? Why do you think that is? Is it because it's a lot to navigate, or it's costly?
It's not for, our clients struggle with it. It's about having control over your data, knowing where the data is stored, knowing what kind of data you have. And the GDPR is all about the personal data and to make sure that it's safe. Big, large organizations with a lot of legacy IT systems, to be frank, they don't really know what kind of data they have, and they don't really know where it is, and they don't really know how it's being used. And that's how it is for many companies.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And we see now in the news. I don't know if anyone here is looking at the news from Sweden, from our participants, but Sweden has suffered a pretty big cyber leakage in the past few days. So I think this webinar is quite timely. But yeah, thank you, Ola, for that. And now moving on to another question. Sorry, still on the back of the report, and pretty much tying into what has been said so far about choosing new suppliers. So from your perspective, I'd like to start off with you, Maria. From your perspective, when you consider new suppliers, what do you think Swedish organizations evaluate the most? What matters the most when you talk to foreign service providers, which is basically the focus group of our webinar today? Do you look at the reference they have? Do you look at the price, the certification, the standards, something else? What is your take there?
Yeah. So when Swedish organizations evaluate, I think, cost efficiency, of course, is one factor, but I would say it's rarely the decisive one. I think certifications and compliance with international standards are seen as a baseline, I would say. And what really makes the difference, and we touched upon that during this webinar, is trust, proven quality, and strong customer references. So I think that organizations want value for money, but never at the expense of security or efficiency. Customers also expect suppliers to help them prioritize and navigate, as I mentioned before, the increasingly complex cybersecurity landscape. So they want a true partner, not just a vendor, and they want someone who can deliver long-term impact and not just short-term fixes. That's what I see in Alurity.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And I think I was going back to what you said about trust is definitely one of the words that came up a lot during Michael's presentation. And Stefan, do you have anything to add there from your perspective? Thank you, Maria.
Definitely can also confirm the trust factor doing business in Sweden, especially within IT and cybersecurity. That's definitely one thing that ends up high on the list when we look at why Swedish customers choose to work with home security. One of the top things is culture. So they say that they like the culture. They like that we understand their challenges. They like that we understand their compliance needs, etc. We touched on a number of things there, like NIS2, for example. So these are things that they really, really like. And I also, tying into the previous question on this one, I think it's a great, anyone coming to the Swedish market, it's a great opportunity to build that trust by showing that you know the needs and the requirements in the Swedish market. And also if you have, again, possibilities to adapt to the Swedish market. If you build a product, build something that is specifically for the Swedish market or for the EU market. Because many of our competitors, and maybe many for you that are also listening today, many of your competitors might be the US giants, the US big IT and cybersecurity companies. And being in the industry for 25 years, something that I've noticed is that they don't really adapt that much to the European or EU markets. So that's a competitive advantage. Even if they have all the resources imaginable, all the resources you can imagine, these big US giants that we usually compete with, but they still don't adapt that much to the local market. So that's really a strong tip. Look at what you can do that the giants doesn't do. That's a good one.
Yeah. And Ola, thank you so much, Stefan. Ola, do you have anything do you want to add there?
No, I agree. I think especially in this area, trust is key. Personal relationships are key. Yeah, you want to know your suppliers. You want to have a good, transparent dialogue with your suppliers, and of course, you want a proven track record. If you work with a supplier, you want to see what kind of end results can you produce, what kind of clients are you working with today, and so on. I think you have to be able to show something, and also a good understanding about this compliance questions. You don't have to be the expert, but you need to understand that they exist, and you need to understand that these are things that you have to work around and understand. But in the end, especially in this area, it's for me at least at Axians, when we look at partners and so on, all success stories is about getting to know each other and being friendly and transparent and trust and building trust.
Thank you. A lot of recurring words there. So it will be interesting to see which keyword is the more recurring in the end. But I think trust is definitely winning the race here. And I would like to ask the panel about. We heard about Michael about the sort of trends in the industry. Obviously, it's a lot going on geopolitically, and also we see Sweden's accession to NATO. And I was thinking it would be interesting to get your views from the industry as to which trends you see are shaping the industry right now, and which needs you see emerging, or you've seen maybe for quite some time, something that you think is good to keep in mind when you're entering Sweden. I don't know, Stefan, or if you want to take that one. You mentioned a little bit about trends before.
Yep. Oh, sure. I think, again, coming back to a few things that stands out that we repeat is definitely the regulatory demands. I mean, that's definitely putting a lot of color, let's say, on the market currently in Sweden. I think that's a huge thing. So now obviously because of the fact that NIS2, the second version of the NIS regulation, the EU-based cybersecurity law, is coming out in January in Sweden next year, January 26th. There's a lot going on there, and there's a lot of buzz around that. So again, that is a very, very clear trend. And then you have other things such as, I think, Ola, you mentioned DORA. We have CRA coming 2027 and so on. So there is just more coming. So these regulations is definitely a great opportunity. I would recommend anyone moving into the Swedish market to dig into that. Then if you break it down a bit, of course, there are other trends also. You mentioned, Dario, we have had recent major data leakages in Sweden, not only because of the recent events, but we've had similar events, incidents, unfortunately, also. So there's a lot of focus, at least from my perspective and from the perspective of working with risk assessment on the third party or supply chain. So how can you protect yourself when it comes to suppliers, vendors, and supply chain? So that has received more and more attention, I think, for obvious reasons. But that also ties into, it also has a central position in the NIS regulation when it comes to supply chain. So not only because of the recent incident, but also for other reasons. Then I would say, I think it was also by Michael mentioned in his presentation, OT. As we mature more and more within cybersecurity, we initially started to look at computers, systems, cloud native platforms, etc., etc. Now we're also digging into the things that connects the digital world with the physical world. So operational technology and that kind of security is obviously growing as a natural, let's say, progression within cybersecurity here in Sweden. So there's a lot around that within production. But it's not only production, manufacturing in these companies that typically have operational technology, but it also goes into, for example, real estate, where you have everything is controlled by a computer today, and you can definitely make a lot of damage if you manipulate like something that is in control of ventilation, heat, or something for real estate also. So those I would say stands out. And lastly, keeping it very brief.
Yes.
Swedes are very good at following these regulations. We see a clear trend. I just compare with some other countries that we work in within EU at home security. Some of them don't really care that much about the regulations, or they care about them when they must. But the Swedes are really good at it. They care, and they want to follow these regulations, and they do it by the book, so to speak. So that's also something that is good to understand about the Swedish market, that the Swedes really want to be good with regulations, and they care about regulations much more than we can see others do in other countries, really.
Well, thank you. That was extremely interesting, and I like that you sort of brought back a little bit to the European perspective and how Sweden stands out. I would like to ask Ola or Maria if you have anything to add on the trends there to what Stefan has said so eloquently.
I can add something, and I mean, one of the reasons that this is a growing market and the cybersecurity market is growing, where we have other parts of the IT industry that maybe not is growing, and this, at least from my perspective, is that almost all organizations are investing in this. Small companies, mid-sized companies, large companies. So we have for many years worked with companies, for example, in the finance industry, and they have always been pretty good at cybersecurity and follow regulations. They are used to that. That's in their DNA. But right now with the NIS and also these high-profile attacks that has been the last couple of years with very severe consequences, has led to that all organizations, all over the spectrum, all industries, all sizes are investing in cybersecurity. So that's how it looks from my perspective.
Yeah, thank you for that. Maria, do you want to add to that anything?
Well, I will echo what Ola just said and also say that still, there is a talent shortage in the market. And of course, that also creates a demand for managed services and trusted partners who can fill the gap. And this is, of course, as we talked about earlier today, there is a strong growing awareness at board levels. Cybersecurity has really moved from being seen as a technical issue to a business critical matter. So there is lots of investments going on, and there is an opportunity, of course, to enter this market in that sense.
Yeah, thank you for that. I guess I have one other question that I wanted to ask. I think maybe to bring it back a little bit to the sort of tricks and tips to foreign service providers within the cyberspace that want to enter the Swedish market. So we have heard in the report opportunities, challenges. The market is open yet can be concentrated. So I think the importance of getting a partner in market was mentioned. So I wanted to ask you, the three of you, if you can just, if you had to just really keep it brief for, a foreign company comes to you and asks you, okay, I want to enter Sweden, give me your top 3 tips. What should I really think about? Just keywords and just something that you want to leave with them. So I don't know, Ola, do you want to start there?
I can start. I guess my advice would be to try to partner up with a Swedish with a company that already has a local presence, and try to see if there's a fit regarding services, solutions, competence, and so on. I think would be the easiest way. They get in touch with me and tell me what you can do, and then we can support you, maybe, if there's a fit. And I think that's the best way.
Yeah. Stefan, do you want to add anything to the list of tips and tricks?
Yeah, sure. Let's see if I make it 3, but I might have a few at least. So I think local presence has been, it is a winning concept in Sweden. And of course, people can navigate very well with English, but throughout the years, being in the IT and cybersecurity industry, it is a success factor to, if possible, speak the local language, maybe have local staff here that speaks the Swedish language, but also having, when you do a presentation, demonstration, whatever it is, try to do that in Swedish, or if you can't do it in Swedish, at least then have the understanding of the regulations and the demands that you can see in the EU and Swedish market. So I think local presence, you have a lot to win there, because we see local presence can take out a lot when it comes to features and functions. If you're a product company, Swedish organizations tend to be more focused on other things than nitty-gritty details in the technologies that they're buying. They rather buy it from someone. And a great way of building trust is to have a local presence and local understanding. So they're less about features and functions, more about the connection, the culture, the trust. That's definitely something to consider. How can you do that? How can you build that? Is that partnership, a reseller in Sweden that have the local presence? There's many ways to do that, but that's something to consider for sure.
Thank you for that. Maria, do you want to add anything to the list? I mean, the list now is getting quite long, but
yeah, and I would say the same thing actually. I think partnering with a strong local player who understands the culture, language, and regulatory landscape. I think that's often key to success. Quite similar.
Yeah, thank you for that. Before opening up for Q&A, I see we have received a couple of questions in the chat, but before doing that, I wanted to go back quickly to, I think it was you, Stefan, that sort of paint a little bit the European picture, sort of the Sweden versus the EU, like how sort of the differences in between Sweden and other countries in the EU. So I was wondering, maybe if you could expand briefly on that. I think obviously we work with companies that are interested in coming to Sweden, but obviously companies that want to export or sell their services abroad. They also look at other markets in Europe. So do you think, is there a way you think Sweden stands out in cyber and maybe doesn't stand out, something that makes it easier, harder to access the market compared to other European markets that you've been in touch with?
Well, for sure. I mean, being in the market for many years, I clearly see the differences. For example, if I go further down on the continent, we operate at home security in the Nordics, in the Benelux, in Germany, and so on. We see a very clear differences. So I think one of the things that really stands out with Sweden is, well, first of all, it's a very business-friendly country, I would say, and I think it's important to mention that it's easy to do business in Sweden. You don't have any hassles with writing contracts or payments or stuff like that you might have in some other parts of the world. So it's a very business-friendly. It's very easy to do business. A promise is a promise in Sweden. If someone says, I like this, I'm going to buy from you, verbally, they 99% of the cases they actually get it done also. So it's a very business-friendly country, even though we're a small country in terms of the number of people. In Sweden, we have the financial muscles and the capacity to buy and invest in cybersecurity still. So I think that's also important to mention. And we invest more in cybersecurity, and we are more mature than quite a few other European countries, I would say. Then there are some countries that are ahead of Sweden, but we are in a very good position. So it's easy to do business because people understand what you're talking about. They know about the needs. They have the money, and you can trust what they're saying. So I would say that really, those are a few things that stands out with Sweden. Not saying too many negative things about other countries. I mean, we're doing a lot of business in many countries, and that works great. But Sweden is exceptional when it comes to these things, for sure.
Thank you for that. And now tying it to a question that we received in the chat about platforms for foreign service providers to access the Swedish market. I think here what is meant is, for example, the value of coming into market. You mentioned now, Stefan, that Sweden is a big country geographically, but a small market. And I wonder, I'm interested to hear maybe Ola or Maria, if you have any thoughts on what's the value? Is there value for companies to come physically to Sweden to trade shows, to meet people on the ground? And I think this goes back a little bit to building trust. Do you see that as an advantage to? I think the tech community in Sweden, the cyber is relatively small. I think people pretty much know each other. It's it's a quite I think you mentioned, Stefan, quite friendly community. So I think, is there a value? Do you see a value for company to come out to market? Ola, do you want to take that?
Yes, of course. It depends also a little bit on also what kind of what it is that you want to sell. But for example, if you look at advisory services, consulting services, if you want Swedish company to work with your staff, with your people and things like that, you have to come here and you have to meet in person and you have to be close. Then if you're selling some kind of software or some kind of that kind of solution, maybe not. But I think you should come here if you want to do business in Sweden. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Maria, you're nodding. I guess you agree.
Yeah, I think it's very important, and we touched upon that also during this session. Relationships and trusts, and it's about showing commitment, building credibility, and demonstrating long-term value. And then I think you have to meet and you have to know each other, and to build those relationships. And if you're gonna look for a partner in Sweden, I think that's a good way to go.
Thank you. And Stefan, I don't know if you want to add anything there to what has been said about the value of coming into market.
No, I think most has been said already. Maybe something to add is that we are also quite early adopters in Sweden. We're known to be quite early adopters to new technology. That's proven scientifically, but it's also something that you will see if you go to the Swedish market. So we're willing to test things out, and especially if you build that trust, you're able to build that trust or stand out in some way and show the local presence or local understanding. I think there's a big willingness there out there to try out new things, new products, new services, new brands that are not necessarily known in the Swedish market.
Thank you for that. I have one last question before we draw to a close. I guess one question and a half. It's a question and then like a smaller one. I think that the last one would be about the biggest mistakes that companies make in your views when trying to come to Sweden. If you can come up with giving your experience, mistakes that companies, service providers from abroad make or tend to make when trying to access the Swedish market within the cyber space. I don't know, Maria or Ola or Stefan, is there anyone that feels like, okay, this is something that I want to comment on that I've seen in the past?
I can start if sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Ola. Well, I think again it's coming back to the local presence and understanding the local market. I think if I look at again a lot of the competitors we have are big US companies, and what the mistake that they usually repeat is that they try to repeat what they've done in US in Europe and in Sweden. And that is not always, well, sometimes they can of course leverage on their brand, so they will be successful maybe anyway. But I think the understanding of the local presence, saying, well, let's start to sell in Sweden remotely. I think that's the biggest mistake. You most likely need to have a partner or your own feet on the ground in the in Sweden, basically. And that's that can of course be challenging if you're a small vendor. It's costly always to start up people in a new country and so on. But I think that will pay off because that creates a competitive advantage to a large portion of the vendors trying to enter the Swedish market, not least the big ones coming from the US market. They really don't want to have feet on the ground in the Swedish market because they want to scale and repeat as they do in other parts of the world. So that's definitely something to consider. How can you do that? Because that's going to stand out a lot, and you will get more attention if you can create that structure, so to speak.
Yeah, that was great advice. Thank you. And Ola and Maria, do you want to add anything to? Now we have the mistakes list before we have the tips and tricks.
My personal experience is just to make it easy for us and for everybody to understand what kind of value you add to the table. And if you can show something, can you show references, can you show stuff that you have done, can you show end results, can you show some kind of success story regarding what you do, and maybe if it's in the European market, it's very, very good if you want to enter the Swedish market, because Sweden and Europe is more or less the same regarding laws and regulations and so on. So try to come up with some way to actually some kind of proof that you add value and that you have some kind of knowledge about at least the European market.
Thank you for that. Maria, do you want to add anything to that? Otherwise, we go to my last.
I can just say that do your homework and learn a little bit about the Swedish market and the culture and the people here. I think that's a good start. As Stefan said, it's hard to take something and just plug and play. I think you have to adjust and listen and learn a little bit before.
Yeah, doing your homework is always good. Thank you for that. And now we're drawing to a close. I just have one last question. I think this question is not really popular, but it's about predictions or about sort of upcoming trends. And I was wondering if you have one or two things that comes to mind when you think about the coming years, and like this is really something that we need to keep our eyes on. I don't know if someone wants to start there.
I think
Yeah,
it is
Olaf,
interesting that you also that previously we mentioned this whole concept of IT and OT. If you have something to add there, I think it's a good fit for the Swedish market. The Axians is part of a very, very big French concern called Vinci Group, and we work in both these areas. We work in IT and we work also in the industry. Here in Sweden, we are helping out with building green steel industries and so on. And it's what we have seen maybe the last 1 or 2 years or so is that these worlds are right now merging. And the cybersecurity, the way we think about cybersecurity in the IT space, and that we have done that for many years, they don't always think like that in the OT world. And they look at it in other ways. And there's a lot to learn here when these two worlds collide. A lot of good stuff come up. So if you have solutions towards the industry, it could be a good fit in the future in Sweden.
Yeah, that was interesting. Thank you. Maria and Stefan, you have one predictions from your experience. Do you think you can share?
You can go ahead, Stefan.
Well, I looking at it from a product company perspective, which is what we are. I think there is some trends that we touched upon. If I should add something, I think it's a lot of, if you're coming as a product vendor into the Swedish market, something to consider. But I think this is a global trend, actually, not only the Swedish market, is the need of consolidation. Many companies have, and organizations, not only companies, also government organizations, have built a huge product stack over the years. And it has become hard to manage, complicated, cost efficient, inefficient, doesn't necessarily help them to be as protected as they can be. So consolidation is definitely one of the things that we see. A lot of customers want to kick out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 products, and if they can replace that with one platform, maybe, that's really what they want to do. So that's one of the clear trends that we see, and I think this is we've seen similar trends in many other industries, of course. Also, it's a maturity kind of trend, right? That you kick out all these different products that you have, and you replace that with one solid product that is more efficient, cost efficient also. That actually helps you to be more protected. So consolidated thinking in terms of product when it comes to cybersecurity, I definitely think is going to be a winning concept going forward. And also, especially if you focus on the SMBs, because the biggest ones, they can buy the best products in each and every vertical. But if you focus on the SMBs, which is still underserved a lot when it comes to cybersecurity, same in Sweden, that's definitely a concept that I would be considering.
Thank you for that. Maria, do you have any predictions?
Well, it's not really a prediction, but I think it's collaboration as growing need for collaboration across companies and society at large, especially with the geopolitical landscape we live in and the European perspective in that sense. There are a lot of American cybersecurity companies, etc. So I think, collaboration will be very important in Europe, both from the business side and, of course, the society side.
Wonderful. I like that we close off on a positive collaborative note, especially given our current times. So yes. I think our time is now up. I am really grateful to yourself, Maria, Olav, and Stefan for sharing your really valuable industry perspectives. It was a pleasure having you join this quite interesting conversation. Thank you. And then Michael, thank you also very much for sharing the report and some keywords that came up during our conversation. Obviously, partnership, trust, compliance. Those are some words that were recurring, and I wrote down. So, but you will have the bigger picture if you read the report on our website. And so yeah, I would like to thank you everyone and the participants also for joining and for spending your afternoon or evening with us. I know that some people are logging from the other side of the world, so thank you very much for that. And yeah, now the webinar is now concluded. So thank you very much, and I wish you a lovely continuation of your day.